when I was producing, I always got the laundry list of deliverables, and I always handed them over because it was required. It wasn't until I became a distributor that I actually had to go learn what they were used for. And with that, one of the things I learned, of course, is that half of what you're asked for is never used. And so we started to really streamline and cut things back from a 20-page list down to 10 and really hone in on what do you actually need and what's used for. And so it's one of the biggest, most important things for a filmmaker is to find out in pre-production what those deliverable lists look like. Because there's so much documentation and elements that you can create the first time around and do it right that will save you massive headaches, because we end up getting into issues where the entire cast and crew, their contracts didn't have the language that's required to satisfy distribution across all platforms. And so here you are, years after your film is done, you now have an offer, and you have to go back to the entire cast and crew and ask them to sign new contracts. And all of a sudden, sometimes you get that person who sniffs money and all of a sudden tries to hold a film hostage. So it's just much easier if you do it right the first time, and it's in our best interest to help provide that information for you so you can be ahead of the curve. Internationally, it's not as much of an issue, but we live in a country where every day people wake up and say, who can I sue today? And so the United States is one of the most difficult places to distribute a film for that reason. There's basic technical elements, and there's things that, with the audio, it's important to understand, like if you want to be on iTunes, you must have a 5.1, and it can't be faked expansion of your stereo. It's got to be legit, otherwise it limits what your possibilities are. Everything now, today, for any internet platform has to have closed caption files. So it's important to understand the technical and the ramifications, otherwise you have a fabulous film that has no life. I would say being very careful of a lot of people with their music, negotiate festival licenses, stock footage as well. The other thing is just to understand, with distribution, your executive producer is not necessarily knowledgeable about the contracts. I've had more filmmakers come to me who signed something that I looked at it and just my heart sank, because no matter what happens with that film, they will never see a dime. And if the distributor does nothing, they'll never have a chance to get their film back. So it's anybody who tries to pressure you and plays the game of like, oh, you have 48 hours, run. Don't sign anything unless you understand every single clause. You really, really want to have a competent entertainment attorney who handles distribution, not just transactional. There's other people, like we've started offering consulting services for filmmakers that want to do either a hybrid approach or do it yourself. Simply to say, look, we'll tell you every which way this contract's going to screw you so you can go in with your eyes open. Because even if you can recognize something that's in there that doesn't look right, which you'll always miss is what's not there that should be, it's important to understand that today, in the past I really was not a fan of do-it-yourself distribution. Do-it-yourself filmmaking is a reality. Distribution was always wrong, but now more than ever there really is almost a hybrid approach where there's platforms like Film Festival Flicks that can assist and help you reach an audience through our channels that you don't have. But the distributor that's there just to exploit your audience will Vimeo and Reelhouse and FX, and there's really some amazing do-it-yourself platforms. But the thing to remember, and when you get excited that they say, oh look, we only take 10%, you get 90%, that's because it's just a platform. 100% of the marketing is going to be upon you. So when you then go to the other distributors and they say, look, we're going to take 30% or whatever they say, well, the value is that they're going to be marketing, they're going to help you reach an audience you don't know, and so a balance of it. Don't get caught up in percentages. Think about that as a filmmaker, you have several things. A, you want to get your film out there to be seen because, there's developing a film, then there's getting a film made, then there's getting a film distributed, and then there's getting it to make a return on its money. But your goal shouldn't be to just make one film and make lots of money. It should be to set yourself up for a career and to build relationships and to learn. And so, yes, your investors want to make money. Yes, you want to make money, but you want to make sure that people discover your film and discover you. And so the best way you can navigate that, you can, and it's a combination. Not every film, especially if you have a social conscious video, there's lots of ways that you can reach, an audience, and that's where I think that Kickstarter and Indiegogo, a lot of those crowdsource sites, more than bringing you money, they help develop an audience through the process and they help you build it. So afterwards, you already know who you can go to. That can be used to entice a distributor to put money in to help it grow larger, or it could be part of a hybrid plan where you exploit that audience yourself And then you take it around and you leverage other assets and you bring other people involved. And you do things from like Gather or Tug to do some crowdsourced theatrical. There's lots of methods. And the last part I'll say is the world has changed. Every filmmaker in the world wants to be on iTunes and Netflix. It's possible to be on every cable VOD station, every internet platform, iTunes, Xbox, PlayStation, Vudu, to be on Netflix, Hulu, and not see a dime. With a small film, if you fracture your audience, all of the onboarding costs are going to wipe it out, and you're never going to build a significant enough awareness to tip the hat. So you're sometimes better off only choosing a couple small platforms to get it started, and then if it tips, it can move over. But keep in mind that iTunes, you're now competing against Fox Searchlight and the studios on the release day, and so if you can't drive the significant audience, it's never going to be noticed by anybody, and it's going to be the tree that fell in the forest that nobody heard. So the thing about Netflix is Netflix now has to service 55 million customers. So a film that services a few thousand to 10,000 isn't worth the cost of the intern that it's going to take to onboard it. So if you can get your film on there, it comes through an aggregator that has a pre-existing deal, and it's going to pay you a couple grand, but it's going to kill your film's potential, because the first thing that happens when you market a film is people go check if it's on Netflix. And if they can get it for free, they watch it there. So that really is the last stop. And I dare say for a lot of films, especially if there's some organization you can tie into, you likely could go to a company and get them to pay you probably 2 to 3 times as much as what Netflix would pay to just put their commercials through it and throw it up on YouTube. So when you're at that end stage where you just want to get it out there to be seen, there's lots of ways to think about it, but keep in mind too, just because it's on Netflix doesn't mean anybody's going to see it, so exposure isn't anything either. So those are some of the things I think you want to just think carefully and understand who your audience is and how you're going to reach them.
Okay.
To me, the release of the interview kind of signaled the end of the digital infancy. I guess the last thing for filmmakers is look for somebody who's passionate about your film. An MG offer can be beneficial, but it's not always everything. If you're going to just be thrown into a machine, then it's going to work not. Like a lot of aggregators, unfortunately, have told me that they believe the shelf life of a film is 2 weeks. We license films for 10 to 15 years because we believe that they're eternal, and we plan to find ways to promote them for that long. And that's really what you want for your film, is someone who's going to care and treat it like it's your own. So the last thing for filmmakers that I want to say is you have to understand the festival circuit. The old adage of like, hey, I'm going to make the film, I'm going to get into the festival, and then the millions are going to roll, doesn't necessarily hold true. There's a lot that's a conversation for a whole other time as to how the festival system works, but research it. There are actual festival consultants and groups out there. Understand the strategy of a film festival. Where you release your film matters. It will set the stage for everything that follows. It will set up your international sales, and getting more and more accolades doesn't necessarily matter. There's only a few that actually count in the general marketplace. It'll break your heart when you have 54 awards and you go to home video and the first thing they do is they take all the laurels off because they say it limits the film's potential. The other thing is realize that after you've had a little bit of a pedigree, don't keep giving your film to festivals. Find an agent or a distributor that can start to market it for sales fees or for screening fees. Because for a lot of these small films, the film festival circuit, which is now about 3,500 festivals in North America, accounts for as much as 85% of the revenue your film will make, and has really become the theatrical release that the old art house circuit used to provide. So don't keep giving it thinking that you're getting more and more accolades and that's going to create value. You may be eroding the true potential of your film.